Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I hope you are all having a very nice day today. I'd like to share with you, if I may, some comments that I have with respect to the scheduled release plans for the month of April in the year 2020 from the Criterion collection. So, scheduled for release on April 7th, 2020. This is spine number 385. This is from the filmmaker Jean-Pierre Melville. The film is Army of Shadows. Now, I'm just going to be using this iPad here for the cover art, but the picture quality is not so good, so I encourage you to check out Criterion.com for images of the cover art for this and for other releases for April and elsewhere. So this is the film Army of Shadows. Now, this is a very interesting announcement because, as some of you already know, this film was already in the Criterion collection. Again, that's spine 385. Which is right here. This is the Blu-ray. However, this fell out of print some years ago. So this has been a title that has been out of print, and it's in fact been one of those titles that is oftentimes talked about among Criterion enthusiasts as being a part of a group of films that fell out of print. They are known as the so-called Studio Canal films. This film falling out of print from the Criterion collection did not mean that the film was totally unavailable. On the contrary, this film had been made available through other labels, and which is good because there's nothing to say that one has to watch the Criterion version of a particular film. Criterion is great, don't get me wrong, but when we're talking about the films themselves, they are oftentimes available through other labels and through other means, and so I think that is that was a fortunate thing. However, for Criterion collection fans and enthusiasts, the fact that this is returning to the Criterion collection like this is, I think, cause for celebration because, as I say, this was among a group of films that were known as the so-called Studio Canal films and that fell out of print some time back. So to see this re-emerge, as it were, in the Criterion collection is really great for Criterion collection fans. And so it looks like the cover art will be the same. Now, this is off of an iPad, so it looks a little bit bluer than the actual sort of darker, grayer blue cover art that I actually have here of this Blu-ray. So we'll have to see when the actual thing is released in April so we can do an actual side-by-side eye comparison. But it looks like for all intents and purposes we're getting the same design, same cover design and so forth. So this is really great. Now, I should say also that the special features indicate a high-definition digital restoration, which looks like the same for this particular, the older Blu-ray that I have. Then there's an alternate 2.0 surround soundtrack presented in DTS HD Master Audio for the Blu-ray. And this also seems to be consistent with the earlier Blu-ray release. Then there is a audio commentary from film scholar Jeanette Vincendeux, which is also available on the OOP Blu-ray. And then there's interviews from 2007 with Pierre Lhomme and editor Françoise Bonneau. And yes, these appear here as well on the OOP Blu-ray. And then there is on-set footage and excerpts from archival interviews with director Jean-Pierre Melville, cast members, author Joseph Cassel, and real-life resistance fighters. And yes, this also appears on the current, or not the current, but on the OOP Blu-ray. And then there is a short program on the director, Jean-Pierre Melville, et l'Armée des Ombres from 2005. And this is also existing on the OOP Blu-ray. Then there is a documentary called Le Journal de la Résistance from 1944, which also appears, here on the OOP Blu-ray. Then there is a restoration demonstration by Pierre Lhomme, which is also here, and also trailers, plus an essay by critic Amy Taubin, along with, for the Blu-ray, a piece by historian Robert O. Paxton and excerpts from Marie Nogueira's Melville on Melville. So this is just to give you the lowdown here for the booklet. Yes, the Blu-ray booklet also includes those three separate entries for the booklet. So it looks like, for the Blu-ray anyway, so it looks like the upcoming re-emergence of this title will match what had been the release prior to it falling out of print. So it looks, for all intents and purposes, that's going to be the same. Once again, take a look at the cover art itself just to make sure that we're getting the same cover art, or maybe it's going to be a little bit bluer as indicated by the site here. Who knows? We're just going to have to wait and see until April. As for the film itself, if you haven't seen this film, then I would strongly encourage it. I haven't spoken about the works of Jean-Pierre Melville here on this YouTube channel very much, and that's much to my own regret and disappointment, and that's all on me, because his works are quite fascinating, and Army of Shadows in particular is I would say, quite a dark and deep, disturbing, and quite chilly and chilling work. It is chilly in the sense that it is examining under its cinematic microscope the kind of breakdowns in human relationships and the weaknesses of human frailties, especially when put under a kind of pressure cooker type of situation. And we are dealing with very horrific situations that are many times left up to the minds and the imaginations of the viewers to try to conjure up in terms of the extent of these horrors that are being depicted. However, I think what is even more remarkably cold and brutal about what's being depicted here is, as I tried to indicate, the examination given towards the human relationships and the idea of trust and knowing who's who and knowing what is going on with the people around you. Are the people really the people that you know, or is there some kind of trust issue that can be no longer repaired? Or is our own perception of the people around us really indeed correct, or are our own perceptions quite skewed due to the extreme pressures of the moment, given the time of war, so to speak, and the resistance? And so this sort of examination that's on display here, directed by Melville and with its cast of characters, is stunning and very disturbing and unforgettable. So if you haven't seen this film yet, I would strongly recommend that you give it a chance. Once again, it is available on non-Criterion means, so you don't necessarily have to get it via the Criterion collection, but if you can, that's great. And you don't have to worry about getting the OOP version, because it looks like the newer April release version will match at least in terms of contents anyway, and more or less the aesthetic look, the earlier OOP Blu-ray, or the earlier release, which I happen to have right here. So it looks like we're getting more or less the same. Again, we'll just have to see in April just in case, but it looks like from the site that what we are getting will be the exact same release. There might be a few little cosmetic differences. Maybe it'll say second printing, or maybe it'll say third printing, or whatever the correct enumeration is on the back. But apart from those minor cosmetic changes, or not even cosmetic, but those minor details of printing numbers and the like, I would say that for the most part, at least as far as contents, we are probably going to get the same stuff. If that's the case, then it's very good, because this release is excellent. So this is Army of Shadows. Next, scheduled for release on April 14th, 2020. This is for Spine 1024. This is the film by George Marshall, starring James Stewart and Marlene Dietrich. This is Destry Rides Again. This is from 1939. So this is the very entertaining adventure Western film with really great performances by Stewart and Dietrich. And in particular Dietrich, I think she, I don't want to give too much away, but she is a real embodiment of passion and energy. There is so much life and energy in what she is portraying and in who she is on screen when we see her. There's one particular scene that is just so wonderfully, refreshingly energetic. It's just one of the highlights of this film, which is filled with many highlights, not least of which being, of course, the other leading performance in the film, that being by the great James Stewart here, which is a really great role. It's a kind of role that I think is well suited to the persona of Mr. Stewart and the kinds of roles that he was well known for. And he's very likable, he's very charming, he's very sort of down to earth, and yet he's still quite capable. And it makes for a very great, entertaining, arresting Western. And I'm looking forward to this coming to the Criterion Collection very much. Now, I should make a point here that the artwork is by Mark Aspinall, and so we have it on display right here. So we have a kind of red motif going on here, except with the James Stewart character, who's standing out by the fact that he doesn't seem to have any red motif. And we have the wonderful sort of logo there at the bottom. It's very nice. It's a nice use of color, and it has a nice Western feel type of font going on with it. So I like this very much. And let's talk about the special features here, as mentioned by the Criterion Collection website. A new 4K digital restoration by Universal Pictures in collaboration with the Film Foundation, with uncompressed monaural soundtrack on the Blu-ray. This is really very interesting. You know, I don't know offhand, I'm embarrassed to say, what the restoration history of this film was, but by Universal Pictures, that sounds very interesting, in collaboration with the Film Foundation. Then there is a new interview with critic Imogen Sarah Smith. Those of you who have seen these past announcement reaction videos from me will probably know that I am a big fan of Imogen Sarah Smith's work, and in particular her interviews wherever they appear on the Criterion Collection releases. She does a fantastic job always in presenting very interesting information in a well-presented, easy-to-follow manner that is just so packed with a lot of things that are just so wonderful to learn about for the first time. And so I'm such a fan, and I'm so happy that there is this new interview with her. Then there is a new interview with Donald Dewey, author of James Stewart, A Biography. So this is going to be interesting because I can probably imagine that this will be talking about James Stewart and how this figures into, I'm just surmising, of course, but this is a pretty significant film in terms of James Stewart and Western films in his filmography and the like. And so it'll be good to have some background about James Stewart, which is what I'm assuming this interview with Donald Dewey will be. But of course, we will have to check the actual supplement when it arrives in April. Then there is a new video essay featuring excerpts from a 1973 oral history interview with director George Marshall conducted by the AFI. So this is really great. So again, George Marshall is the director of the film, so this will be a nice little excerpted supplement. Then there's the Lux Radio Theater adaptation of this story from 1945, featuring James Stewart and Joan Blondell. I've actually listened to this. It's readily available, so if you're interested in listening to this, I'm sure you could do a quick search online, maybe try to track it down fairly easily. Very entertaining work. You know, not often, but sometimes the Criterion Collection will release films from the United States, Hollywood, during the 30s and 40s, and oftentimes they'll include as supplements the radio adaptations of the particular stories, and so they're always a lot of fun to listen to. So as I said, I've listened to this one, and so hopefully if and when you decide to get this particular release, you too can enjoy that. Unless, of course, you can track it down elsewhere. And as I say, I think it's fairly easy to track down, but it's worth listening to because it's a lot of fun. Then there's going to be an essay by the great Farren Smith Nemi. So I'm also a big fan of Farren Smith Nemi's, very much so. So it'll be good to read that essay. So this is scheduled for Spine 1024. This is Destry Rides Again. Next, this is scheduled for release April 21st, 2020. This is scheduled for Spine 1023 from 1969. The filmmaker is Uri Hertz. Again, the filmmaker is Uri Hertz. The film is The Cremator. The English title given is The Cremator. This film is one that I have had the great honor of seeing from the release that was made here. This is the Blu-ray from Second Run, which is the UK label. A fantastic release. And I had the pleasure of watching this on this release here. And my goodness, this is such a, and I mean this all positively because it's an overwhelming, magnificent, chilling, scary, horrifying experience of a film to watch. And it has a lot of I would say, fairly fantastic, surrealist touches, poetic touches, things to do with death in a kind of grim manner that is still done with a cheeky sort of, I mean this positively, a cheeky sort of nastiness and a kind of darkness that is bone-chilling. And it is done with sometimes a bit of tongue-in-cheek, a lot of times with a certain camera verve to the visual sweeps. The score is outstanding. It mixes fantasy and reality, or I should take that back. It seems more to be about a fantasy, or maybe a kind of dream or nightmare. And it's the subject matter here and the characters here, and the main character in particular is one that is just a kind of one-of-a-kind character in cinema. Very dark, very memorable, very menacing, very chilling, very eerie, and yes, very horrific. And my goodness, this is an unforgettable film experience. So I am all for people watching this film, if at all possible. It's very disturbing in some parts, but it's done with a kind of artistic integrity and a great sense of style and a great sense of earnestness to its subject matter. And it is seemingly trying to tell a kind of maybe socio-political allegory when we remember the European history leading up to and culminating in what ended up being the Second World War. So this story therefore becomes quite significant, and so there is much darkness to be had when thinking about those terms and in those themes. Not to mention the fact that the main character here is really one of the most fascinating dark, almost anti-heroes that one, I'm sure, will come across. And so this is the film The Cremator, Uri Herz this is from Czechoslovakia. So let me just speak very quickly about what the Criterion Collection says it will offer on its release. First of all, this is the cover art. It's credited as being by La Moutique. And I must say, again, I apologize for the poor quality here, but please check out the Criterion website directly for this. Looks very stark. It looks very simple from a distance, but if you look closely, there seems to be a little bit of a sinister element going on here, especially around the middle here. And we have, therefore, I think almost a wicked pastiche style theme to this cover, which I think is quite apropos. So I'm very much intrigued by this. As for the supplements, we have new 4K digital restoration with uncompressed monaural soundtrack on the Blu-ray, and then a high definition digital transfer of the Junk Shop, which is the director Uri Hertz's 1965 debut short film. Then there's a short documentary from 2011 featuring Hertz visiting filming locations and recalling the production of The Cremator. Then there's new interview with film programmer Irina Kovarova about the style of the film. Then there is a documentary from 2017 about composer Denek Liška, featuring Hertz, filmmaker Jan Svankmajer, and the Quay brothers and others. Then there is an interview with actor Rudolf Ruzhinsky from 1993. Then there's a trailer, and I'm sorry, I should say that the actor Ruzhinsky is the actor who plays the main character of the film. And then there's a trailer. Then there's a new English subtitle translation. Then there's an essay by scholar Jonathan Owen. So I should say that when we were comparing it to the second run Blu-ray that I have here, this has the Junk Shop, which is the short film from 1965. So that is also the same as what the Criterion Collection has. But what this has that the Criterion Collection doesn't have, it has an audio commentary by Kat Ellinger. And so it would have been nice if the Criterion Collection could have included a commentary here, but oh well. That is wasn't meant to be, I suppose. Then this also includes a 2017 projection booth podcast on the film. And then there's a booklet with featuring essay on the film and director Uri Hertz by writer-producer Daniel Bird and the like. So there are some there are differences, but I think the similarity would be, or the common feature being the inclusion of the Junk Shop. So but everything else seems to be new. So if you want to have a more, let's say, complete take in English on this film and what it has to offer, then I would suggest getting this as well. This is a really stellar release. But if you are a very strong Criterion fan, then you can of course wait for this. And of course we should wait for these supplements to arrive, and we can examine them in April to see if we can get a better sense of which release is quote unquote better. But my sense is that the Criterion release will include some pretty good supplements. So I think, unless I'm gravely mistaken in my supposition, then it looks like the Criterion release will be a high quality one. But again, we'll see. But I strongly suspect that it will be a high quality release. And also, of course, we can never forget the film itself, and I have to go back to the film itself. This film is amazing. It's dark, it's tough, and it's very, it's very, I would say, in many ways, it's very tricky. And I mean that in a very complimentary sort of way. And it plays tricks on the viewer, and it does little things with visual cues. It plays with reality and uses fantasy to comment on reality, let me put it that way, in a very disturbing way. Very disturbing film. It's unforgettable, so wholly memorable, and it's so worth watching, my friends. So I cannot wait for this to emerge in the Criterion Collection in April. If you cannot wait, or if you are eager to watch it soon, and you want to get a Blu-ray, I would suggest also, as a great other way to watch it now, is the second run Blu-ray. Incidentally, according to the back, this Blu-ray from second run is indicated as being regions A, B, and C, quote unquote region free, so to speak. So you can play it on a region A player, or you can play it on any player that's region A, B, or C. So really strong film. But if you can wait until April, there is of course the Criterion Collection release. So I'm looking forward to this one immensely. Once again, this is scheduled for Spine 1023. This is Uri Hertz's The Cremator. Next, this is scheduled for release April 28th, 2020. This is for Spine 1026. This is from 2005. The filmmaker is Miranda July, filmmaker and artist, and I'll get to that in a second. The title is Me and You and Everyone We Know. So Me and You and Everyone We Know. So I have this film on a Japanese DVD. Not many, but a number of the films by Miranda July have been made available through Japanese DVD releases. And so while I don't admit, or I can't say that I am well versed in all of the works of Miranda July, both in terms of her films and also in terms of her artwork and exhibitions and the like, I have seen this film. And I can say that while I admit that I think on the whole it's a film that is very charming and quite inventive and very moving in many parts. And so I'm looking forward to this very much. You know, for me, it's a film that I think when I first tried to watch it, some time back, I admit that I wasn't quite as engaged with it, or maybe I wasn't quite ready to be engaged with the film based on my own personal, where I was at the time. But as I got a little bit older, it was a film that I think grew on me, and it's one that I find very touching and very interesting in the way it presents its story, or I should say various stories that are made in a kind of in a sort of a tableau sort of style, so to speak. And so I find that to be a really nice, interesting portrayal of a kind of tapestry of humanity, if you will, and done with a kind of earnestness and a genuine sense of care and loving for the characters. And so this is a really wonderful, welcome, and surprising entry into the Criterion Collection, but a welcome and lovely surprise. So this is Miranda July's film, Me and You and Everyone We Know. Let me just point out here the artwork, which is great. I can't seem to find on the site any mention of any artist credited for this particular artwork, but it's really lovely. I love this very much. We'll have to. I love this sort of collage look of it and the color. And there's a nice detail here about the fish here, the little goldfish, and that's a little detail. I don't want to go into why that's there, but it's actually a very significant part of the film, and so I love that little detail very much so. And the color scheme is great. So this is a really lovely, striking, and simple on its surface, but actually it's saying a lot, I think, and it's tying in very nicely with the film. So well done. Again, as of now, I can't seem to find any credit to this particular artwork on this on the website from the Criterion Collection. As you know, sometimes, or the Criterion Collection oftentimes gives us the artist, sometimes at the end of the special feature section, but I can't seem to find it here on the site. Maybe Criterion will remedy that between now and the release date, but for now, this is the artwork as it appears on the website. So there's that. Then, as far as the special features are concerned, we have high definition digital master approved by director Miranda July with 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack on the Blu-ray. Great. And then a new documentary about July's artistic beginnings and the development of her debut feature. This is really wonderful. I have a sense that this is the first of a number of supplements that is included with this Criterion release that will be focusing in on Miranda July's life and her work, not only as a filmmaker, but also as an artist. I mean, I think it's one and the same, but she is also an artist outside of being a filmmaker. And so I hope that this and other supplements will get into that, because she's actually a very, very fascinating artist figure. So there's that. Then there is a new documentary by July called Open to the World about the 2017 Interfaith Charity Shop and participatory artwork she created in collaboration with Art Angel. So this was a kind of an art project, exhibition, installation / shop that was a kind of collaborative project between her as the artist and also the foundation organization, I think it's in the United Kingdom, called Art Angel. And I think it was, what was it, it was, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Selfridges. And very interesting project. And if you are interested, you can actually find information online about this. If you look through maybe Art Angel's website, or maybe interviews with July or Miranda July about this at the time around 2017. Yes. So very interesting. So this is a new documentary. So my sense, therefore, is that this is not something that is, I don't think this is going to be something, again, I haven't seen the actual contents of the documentary, but this seems to be something more that is trying to talk about the art life of the filmmaker Miranda July, not necessarily in the context of her making this particular film, but in the context of her life and her career, which I think is very significant, and because I think it's true of most all filmmakers for sure, but definitely true for Miranda July. I think an understanding of her and her background and the kind of artist that she is will go a long way in allowing myself, for instance, as a viewer, to really be able to grapple with this particular work in a positive way. So well done for including this. Then there is July Interviews July, Deauville, 2005, a discovery from July's archives, newly edited. Looking forward to that as well. Again, this might be directly related to the film itself, or it might be more about the artist life. Who knows? What we'll see. Then there are 6 scenes from the 2003 Sundance Directors Lab, where July workshopped the film with commentary by July. So this will be very interesting as well. So this is maybe a supplement that is now returning to a more of a concrete discussion or relationship with the actual film itself. So that's what my assumption is anyway. Then there are short films by July: The Amateurist from 1998, Nest of Tens from 2000. Then, this is interesting here. Then there are several films from July's Joni for Jackie project and a documentary about the program. So this is another aspect of her as an artist. And when she was, one of the art projects that she was engaged with was a very interesting sort of a collaborative video art installation kind of project that she was engaged in, trying to ask, I think it was female artists, to provide video material that would then become a sort of, I think it's often described as being like a chain letter video, but I think it's more like it was like an ongoing, sort of organically grown video collage, if you will, or long form moving image work from a variety of artists. And so that involved many films, as far as I understand it. So according to this, some of those, or several films from this project, will be made available, plus a documentary about the program. Again, this seems therefore to be a supplement that is focusing in on the artist and the art life of Miranda July, not necessarily the filmmaker life, although this is a kind of film project or video project, and so I think it's not without significance, that's for sure. And as I said earlier, I think it's really beneficial to get a sense of her as an artist as well, outside of the direct references to this film, in order to therefore be able to see what this film is really about, I think. And so this is, I think, very helpful indeed. Plus there's a trailer, plus essays by the artist and scholar Sarah Magenheimer and novelist Lauren Groff. So great, absolutely great. So this looks like a package that is as much about the artist Miranda July as it is a presentation of her film Me and You and Everyone We Know. And if that's the case, my friends, then this is going to be great. Now, again, I can't admit to being a really good expert in her works and in her artistic life, and so I think this will be a nice source of information for me, and maybe it might be a jumping off point for me to explore further. But and then of course there's the film itself, which, as I said before, I think is very touching and it's quite clever in places. So and I know that it has a really strong fan base, and so I think this is going to be a very nice welcome entry into the Criterion collection. So this is Me and You and Everyone We Know. Last, but certainly not least, this is scheduled for release April 28th, 2020 for Spine 1025. This is the film from 2014. The director is Wes Anderson, and the film is The Grand Budapest Hotel. This is the Grand Budapest Hotel. Excuse me there, sorry about that. Again, I urge you to take a look at the website, criterion.com, directly to take a look at this artwork. It's really beautiful. Before I forget, this is credited as being by Emma Wesley, this artwork. Really great. Now, this film has been kind of rumored, or maybe it's been on a lot of Criterion wish lists, shall I say. This is, I think, a very well-regarded film from the viewpoint of many people, and for good reason, because it is such I think, a wonderful, delightful film from Wes Anderson. Now, I haven't spoken with a lot of detail about the works of Wes Anderson here on this channel, and again, that's to my shame and embarrassment. And I must admit, I haven't necessarily thought about what my absolute favorite Wes Anderson film is. But if I were to actually sit down and really think hard about that, I think Grand Budapest Hotel would certainly be in the conversation for me. It would certainly be a final contender. And I think this is an absolutely splendid work, a wonderful example of Anderson's art, a wonderful example of the way in which the story and visuals move, and they are just kinetic and also very clever, and also there is a certain style that could be said to be, and I don't mean this negatively, I mean this very positively, there's a certain style that might be said to be somewhat rigid in terms of a highly formalized structure that is also incredibly stylized, and it's to the film's benefit because it is so infused with the sense and sensibility of the filmmakers behind it. But that's not all. We also have, I think, a great film and a great story that is so that's so wonderful to follow, and so I kind of it's a kind of it's a kind of an ensemble work. It's almost like a tableau or pastiche work in and of itself, and yet it's such but it's still anchored in a real sense of genuine, maybe not genuine earnestness, but it's a kind of a sense of a real sense of wonderful filmmaking with a very nice story at its heart. So that's why I really find this film to be particularly endearing among Anderson's works, and I admit Anderson's works are filled to the brim with many endearing works. So this is going to be a great release, and I can anticipate already that this might be indeed one of the most popular of Criterion's releases. You know, Criterion and Criterion and Wes Anderson works are actually a really good pair indeed. And so to see this, the Grand Budapest Hotel, emerge in the Criterion collection at last is just wonderful, wonderful news. So this is the Grand Budapest Hotel. And let's see, as far as the special features go, at least according to the website, we have 2K digital transfer supervised by director with 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack on the Blu-ray, plus new audio commentary featuring Anderson, filmmaker Roman Coppola, and actor Jeff Goldblum. Says new. Wonderful. And it's always nice when Criterion has commentaries for its releases. It's really nice. Then there's scenes, selected scene storyboard animatics. Then there is what's called a new documentary about the film called The Making of the Grand Budapest Hotel. It's interesting. So far, a number of new features, or features that are being described as being new. Great. New interviews with the cast and crew. Great. Video essays from 2015 and 2020 by critic Matt Zoller-Seitz and film scholar David Borwell. Great. I'm a fan of both. And then behind the scenes, special effects and test footage, trailer, plus 2 pieces by critic Richard Brody, and with the Blu-ray, a double-sided poster and other ephemera. Now that's an interesting use of a word, ephemera. What this other ephemera will be, it'll be interesting to see. So this is the film Grand Budapest Hotel. So I am very much, very much looking forward to this release. It'll be great to see this. It'll be great to see the reaction. It's wonderful to have yet another Wes Anderson film in the collection. I've just lost the cover art, excuse me. And there we go. So that is, there we go. So that is the Grand Budapest Hotel. This is scheduled for Spine 1025, again for release on April 28th, 2020. Okay, my friends, so this is the planned scheduled release for April 2020. What do you think? Are you interested in any films in particular? I must say that there is it's 5 titles, 4 of which, technically speaking, are new releases. One is a reemergence from an OOP title. I must say that the OOP title of Army of Shadows coming back into the Criterion collection is really great news. Now, I don't know if we should take this to mean necessarily that we're going to see a lot of other Studio Canal titles emerge in the collection. I wouldn't necessarily bank on that, although nothing is impossible, of course. But I think, while we should temper our expectations with other titles, never stop hoping, of course, but while we should, of course, temper our expectations to a reasonable extent, all the same, I think it's such a wonderful sign to the Criterion Collection enthusiasts out there that this film is coming back after a long absence. I mean, this was one of the titles, Army of Shadows, this is one of the titles that was fairly, you could still find it in used eBay or something, but it went for quite a hefty sum in some places, and some you really had to look around if you could find it with a good deal. And so, at least as far as that's my understanding of the used market is concerned. So to see this reemerge pretty much intact prior to it falling OOP, I think is really great news. And once again, it might or might not, depending on the circumstances, indicate something more about other titles. But let us wait and see. Let's have a reasonable wait and see attitude about that before commenting further. But regardless of that, to have Army of Shadows back is, for Criterion Collection enthusiasts, this is a big deal. So this is really great. And then as far as the new releases are concerned, these aren't films that are necessarily impossible to see now. So if you wanted to try to catch some of these films now to watch, you could do so very easily, I think. They represent a real nice range, I suppose. I suppose if I could say one thing, it would be I think of these, as I said, hopefully I made myself clear that I was expressing overall sense of enthusiasm for these releases. But I think of these, perhaps the one that I am most excited for is the release of the Cremator. And I'm most excited for this because I probably can say that this will be a film that hopefully more people will get a chance to see when it's released on Criterion. Now, no offense to Second Run at all. No offense taken, because I'm a big fan of Second Run. But if a film is released on separate labels, on more than one label, of course the chances are that more people will see it. I think that's what I mean. And so I'm welcoming the fact that hopefully this means that more people will become able to see this film, which is, as I said earlier in this video, such a memorable, unforgettable, remarkable achievement. Very, very poetically dark and quite stirring, fascinating work with a central performance here that is just chilling, very chilling. So I look forward to the reactions from people, particular about this film when this comes out. But as I said, as far as the other films, as I said, I'm expressing a lot of enthusiasm for them. Destry Rides Again, I'm very much excited for. This was, I didn't mention this, but Destry Rides Again was a Western that my father was particularly fond of, and he was very fond of Westerns, and he loved James Stewart, and he loved this film very much, and so it'll be great to see this again. And then Miranda July, of course. Miranda July. It's great to see the Criterion release focus in on the artist as well as the filmmaker and the film. And because, as I say, I think the context of her as an artist is so critical, at least for me, in my being able to better appreciate the film, which I think is a very charming one. And then last but not least, of course, is the great Wes Anderson, once again giving us another great work of art in that wonderful Wes Anderson style. So this is yet another example of Criterion Wes Anderson works going hand in hand. It's really great. So this, I anticipate, will probably be a very, very popular release from Criterion, and it should be, because it deserves it, because it really is really great. So, the Grand Budapest Hotel, of course. So, it maybe something can be said. It's pretty, maybe relatively speaking, it might not seem like a lot, but this, I think, is a fairly good-sized number. This is a common number of titles, I think, for a particular month, so that's great. That's fine. Then we are in April, and then I think we can. Some of us might be disappointed, perhaps. There is no box set yet. Remember what the New Year's Clue told us of the possibilities of box sets in the future. We're not getting any of those box sets yet. But assuming that those box sets that were featured in the New Year's Clue, assuming that those box sets will arrive this year, 2020, we still have plenty of time, my friends. Plenty of time. And in the meantime, we can enjoy these really wonderful works, and also the return of Army of Shadows, which I think in some ways can be seen as being almost like a celebration of Criterion and physical media in a Criterion collector type of way. So that is my general reaction to the April 2020 release schedule from the Criterion Collection. So, my friends, once again, if you have any thoughts or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. As always, my friends, I love to hear what it is you have to say. Are you excited? Are you disappointed? Are you feeling a little bit anything you want, my friends. I'm very happy to hear what it is you have to say. So, until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. So until we meet again, cheers.